Like many people my age, I grew up with Harry Potter, both the books and more so for me, the movies. And I've always appreciated the story behind Hogwarts and the eccentric world that it's set in. That being said though, this was never my favourite franchise. And so unsurprisingly, when I heard that there was more to be seen from this world, I was at first a bit skeptical. Of course though, I then learned what this was all about, that it was actually a prequel to Harry Potter, and it was based on some unexplored elements which were lightly touched upon throughout the series. And I admit, this definitely got me curious. And soon enough, I began to see Harry Potter videos and articles everywhere, along with Fantastic Beasts posters, website banners, and any other form of advertising that you might think of. And I hate to say it, but from here my curiosity just grew. And in all honesty, after having actually seen the film, personally I'd say that all of this hype was actually worth it for once. I'm Jack Fitzpatrick and this is my review of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. So let me just start off by saying that this movie is just straight up fun. With its generous cast of new characters, as well as its imaginative use of enchanting visuals and direction, Fantastic Beasts is just a film that makes you want to smile. But hang on, first I should probably explain the general plot and idea of this movie. Set in a gothic 1920s era New York, we follow an awkward yet ridiculously kind wizard named Newt, who has taken the responsibility to rescue different creatures, beasts, and monsters, whatever you want to call them, in need. Early in the film though, he misplaces his magical suitcase which possesses all of these creatures, and subsequently a number of them get loose and run free among New York. And a bulk of the plot is about Newt trying to catch these animals and get them back. It's here where I feel that I should also mention that I think that this is a pretty good entry point for newcomers to the series. Ignoring just a few bits which could be considered somewhat alienating, Fantastic Beasts is a fairly new and unexplored film for both fans and newcomers alike. Being set in America makes it so there are some cultural differences from what we've seen of the wizarding world already. They have their own set of terminology, they have their own Ministry of Magic with their own laws, and they of course have their own history. Speaking of Harry Potter though, which is just impossible not to compare this to, something that Fantastic Beasts magnificently accomplishes is capturing the magic and wonder of its predecessor. Along with that comes a fitting and familiar sounding but different enough score, a brief exploration of the politics and reputations regarding wizardry in the time and place that this is set, and a substantial amount of world building. With all this and more, Fantastic Beasts proves to be wondrous and impressively entertaining throughout. Director David Yates, who I was glad to hear was coming back, along with the longtime author and first-time screenwriter J.K. Rowling, both choose to reveal quite a fair share of the fantastical elements, but keep enough hidden away in the darker corners, leaving more to be desired. And I think that this really grounded the film, despite the bizarre world that it was set in. This also expertly left a lot more for the impending sequels. Fantastic Beasts felt like a strategic entry into what could potentially be greater things later on. But at that, I do have to say that at times this could actually hinder the film. At times, Fantastic Beasts felt like its only purpose for existing was to set up the later films, a problematic approach that we've seen in other long-term franchises before it. And in some ways, when you actually think about it, not that much actually happens in the plot, but rather the film focuses on an equally difficult task of playing introduction. Something else that unfortunately seemed to make its way into each and every scene though was a heavy use of computer-generated imagery and green screen-based effects. Now, I'm not one to complain about these sorts of things. In fact, I have fairly foolish eyes for such a film lover. I'm not often taken aback by not so great special effects, and I have absolutely no bias against CGI. Regarding this though, I will say that at times, the green screen could be largely noticeable. If this sort of thing does bother you, well, I could see it breaking your immersion a little bit. Speaking specifically of the CGI though, I just have to say that it's a wonder what special effects are capable of. Fantastic Beasts proves to be competent in showing these attractive CGI effects. Beyond the special effects though, the film was also just a marvel to look at in terms of cinematography. The film made use of many strongly atmospheric settings, which were complete by a tinge of blue and greys. Yates also constantly moves the camera around the action. In this way, Fantastic Beasts never shied away from showing the finer details. Scenes involving heavy destruction, mythical creatures, or any other form of flamboyant visuals were all equally on display here. And it's here where the camera play was fun and present throughout, and I always loved this. Fantastic Beasts presented a strong cast of actors and the characters that they present. First, I'll get to talking in more detail about the protagonist Newt, and it's here where Eddie Redmayne really surprised me. I mean, I didn't hate him in something, I couldn't believe it. He was accurately friendly but played it off in this unique way, but perhaps most respectively, he also came off as quite a powerful, noble, and competent wizard, worthy of playing the lead in a film like this. Along in his quest to save all of these creatures, Newt comes across a number of new characters, including a Ministry of Magic member played by Catherine Waters, who essentially plays the Hermione role, as well as an originally irrelevant nomad played by Dan Fogler, who gets caught up in the confusion and becomes an integral part to the film's plot. And I think that he will probably be the fan favourite of this movie. Being somebody who has just become aware of magic, he essentially plays as the character which introduces us to the world and the characters, and the film often uses fish out of water jokes with him. In the end though, he also has some heart. Now, we need to talk about Credence, who is played by the Flash himself, Ezra Miller. And without a crazy amount of screen time, Credence proved to be one of the most interesting characters, even if he wasn't the most likable. And there was also a large amount of side characters played by the cute little magical animals throughout. Some which include a mischievous little beast who has this natural attraction to all things shiny, including money and jewelry, a stick insect like Critter, which adorably has what Newt describes as attachment issues, and a rather quirky ape-like creature which possesses some supernatural abilities, just to mention a few. Another aspect that I particularly loved about all of these creatures was the complicated reputation that they had within the wizarding world, and this reputation resulted in them being harshly and unjustly judged as being cruel and monstrous, when really they don't want to hurt anyone. It's just that when they're caught in a difficult situation, they could be considered quite dangerous. Like a lion in a shopping centre or a shark in a pool or something, these aren't inherently evil animals, but they do need to be dealt with, and with much caution. Along with Newt's beast comes many moments of just slapstick humour, set pieces, and cute little moments which all exist just for fun, and not much else. This isn't a criticism though. Fantastic Beasts is simply just a film full of friendly comedy. To balance out all of the lightheartedness, the film also managed to present a mix of darkness. It's here where some of the conflicting tones could prove to be just a little bit jarring though. But mostly this balancing act was performed surprisingly well, with a good amount of both innocent whimsy as well as foreboding dangers throughout. One more negative that I do have to discuss regarding the film though, is that by the end of it, some tropes from the Harry Potter series began to show their weary heads, and ultimately the whole structure began to feel just a little bit weird. And then before I knew it, we were in the middle of the climax. And look, novels and scripts are two very different things. But I think that if J.K. Rowling writes the rest of this series, well, I hope she gets the hang of it just that little bit more. That being said, this was definitely not an amateur job. The creativity ultimately shone throughout, but I will say though that at times it was just that little bit unbalanced. In the end, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was fittingly fantastic, and was a film which was so good that at times I was just kind of like, I kind of don't want this to end. It had some beautifully cinematic music, astonishing cinematography which wasn't afraid to boldly put itself on display, and a creatively told story which was strongly entrenched into this world of magic and sorcery. I would rate Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them a 9 out of 10. So let me know what you thought about the movie, let me know what you thought about the review, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff, say it all the time, and send off! Yeah. Good send off.